Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Superman. For most of my life, I think people have been telling me this character isn't interesting, trying to make this character darker, maybe misunderstand what you want to do with this guy because of all sorts of reasons. But what I've known for forever is when I was a little kid, I watched Superman punch a lizard and punch a bunch of robots, and that was pretty fucking cool. Now, the major misconception about superhero movies and superheroes in general is that people like it because it's a power fantasy. Maybe a lot of people do. I don't fucking know. I can just speak for myself. When I see characters like this and they're done well, like Superman, and they're able to do something, it sort of gives me hope. And I think it gives other people hope. Most of our great stories make us believe maybe we can do it. Maybe you can be good. And I think this movie is talking about, if you were to be good, the complications that arise from it and how even being good isn't maybe good enough. I was really surprised while watching it, the leaps and bounds this movie made. In terms of comic book movies, the fact that this is the first one that feels like I just picked up a random comic from the newsstand and started reading and was surprised that I got such a compelling issue is really crazy. I never thought we'd get to this point in superhero media. This is very much a post MCU Superman movie. I think Man of Steel was, but it was more trying to just not be that. This, you have James Gunn and all that stuff. This is very much how Marvel and DC used to work in the comics. One did one thing, the other, they tried to rip each other off, and you're not even sure who started what. And you're like, wait, Jack Kirby created Darkseid first before Thanos? What's going on here? It doesn't make any sense. Whatever. But the point is, this feels like a Superman comic. This is someone who loves comic books. These are the Superman comics I grew up with in the 90s and the 80s and stuff like that. This is what this wants to be. This is a movie that loves Superman and hates Lex Luthor. It is not the movie that wants to be dark or thinks being dark, it makes you more mature and interesting. It understands what Superman is and what this character should be, why we need it right now, and the right kind of movie for this character, which is why James Gunn was so good with Guardians, and is why he's done it again with Superman. It starts off where Superman's being beat up, and we learn that superhero beings have been around for a while. Superman's only been around for about 3 years, or at least coming out and publicly being Superman, and that he broke up a war, which he thought was a good idea, and that Lex Luthor is attacking him and beating him up, and he has to figure out all this stuff while doing the right thing to kind of save the world yet again. This movie has a lot of plot beats in it and a lot of stuff going on. In fact, so much so that there was a part towards the end where I was like, wait, is the dimensional rift thing going? Did that get solved? What happened with that? And I couldn't remember. I was like, did I zone out and I missed the dimension tearing fix? Did he do that real quick? Because there's so much going on in some of these shots. And no, that was still going. But there was so much going on that I really did get a little lost. At the same time, I think this movie overall works way better than it has any right to. I think it 100% has too much going on, but it feels like a thick, deep DC comic. I was more of a Marvel guy growing up, the comics and stuff. And but I did read Superman and did feel like there were way too many characters and all this stuff going on. It reminded me of that a lot, actually. It's probably the first Superman movie that really wanted to be an adaptation of the comic since maybe Richard Donner, and also, liked Superman. It also leans into Superman's silly, cartoony origins and isn't afraid of it. The big thing about the MCU and what I liked about it versus this uber realistic thing DC kept pushing at the time, movie-wise at least, was that they could let Iron Man, be a comic book character, have comic book logic in it. And this does that and doesn't really care if you don't like it or not. It just is that. This is what comic book movies are now. This is the evolution. There's no origin story. We can have obscure characters and weird characters just like the comics do, and you'll just roll with it as long as you're having a good enough time. And this is what that structure and that whole style was built to do. Give you a really entertaining summer blockbuster. This does feel like the summer where having two studios finally getting around to hopefully making good movies of characters that they haven't done that with either before or in a while. And I think Superman is DC's entry, and I thought he did an amazing job. This is definitely one of his best movies, but also just like the idea that like it trusts the audience. Like the thing that really surprised me is it's like, yeah, it's been 3 years since he's been around and he was in a fight. He knows a bunch of stuff, but we'll just throw you into it. You have to have faith in the audience to keep up with that, and they very much did where I saw it, and I very much did. Just like it was crazy seeing a movie that is very much a blockbuster, probably costs like $250 million or however much they're saying or whatever we'll admit to. Have faith in me as an audience member, but also in the end be positive. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, it was just like at the end it was like, I don't think this should feel as weird as it does, but compared to like what they've done to Superman and what's going on in Hollywood in general, the fact that this movie's like, hey, you know what this is, but then is like, also hopeful. Like, everything else it's like this is cynical and side, like Deadpool and Wolverine or some shit. And this is like a really well made, ridiculous, positive blockbuster. Like, how did this happen? Like, I think this is what we need from Superman, and maybe what we need as a culture is to have this hope and not this positivity. But I also think, regardless of what, the context of, guess what, everyone, the context is the world sucks. Even if it didn't, we always need some hope like this. And this is the first Superman movie that got what you like about Superman. I think James Gunn also probably watched Superman punch a bunch of robots and lizards, but understood, hey, it's cool that guy's doing that. But he's also saving his girlfriend, saving the city. He cares about stuff, and not only does he care about stuff, it should look fucking amazing while he's doing it. And that's what they did. The action sequences have a ton going on. He very much likes to have stuff almost like it's in the background, like, like William Wellman. They're trying to obscure the cool thing, just like he used to do. When like Lois is in this like force field bubble and Mr. Terrific's doing this huge fight and like all this stuff like that. But then they do a lot of straight fights, well, I guess they do a lot of like regular fights that work really. Everything with him with the weird like kind of sort of fisheye lens thing when he's flying looked really cool. It almost looked like an illustration in a weird way. And Krypto's amazing. I guess he's James Gunn's new Groot. He has to have some cutesy character in every one of these superhero movies. And guess what? He succeeds again. And it's not even like the same kind of Groot. I mean, like, structurally and everything probably, but it's cute to see Krypto. Like, Krypto, for real, I was like, when Krypto was back on screen, I was like, yes, like, he was maybe the, I don't know if he beats Mr. Terrific, but like Krypto's amazing, and that he's not trained and he's silly and all. It's like fun. It's a fun movie, and it's a positive film, and it's weird and sci-fi. I think sometimes when we get to these kind of pinnacles in superhero media, you almost feel like, holy shit, the system worked. But this is just like, I don't know if like the system still works. Like this works. Like, I'm just so confused by that. But I really, really loved how positive it was. I was kind of dancing on air leaving the theater because it was just like, holy shit, like we really just did that. Like, it's like fun and good and interesting. You had other heroes there and it worked. The audience wasn't confused by like Mr. Terrific and asshole Green Lantern and Hawk Girl Dora or anything like that. It was like everyone was into it, and it works really well. James Gunn had faith in the audience, but also is very clear in his intentions and explaining things. Like, he's a nerd who wants to make sure you read the comics, but you get the comics as well. Like, he cares about your enjoyment into these characters, and he's very good at crafting those things. Like this, I had felt before when he did his Suicide Squad, I'm like, oh, he's just doing his shtick again. And it's like at a certain point, you're like, okay, is this like all you've got? And Superman is not Guardians of the Galaxy. He does like his punk rock stuff and like all that. And I did enjoy the soundtrack, actually. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it works very well. They still use the John Williams Superman theme, but how could you not? David Cornsweet, I think, is really good as Superman. He's sort of like the cool guy at your office who's always trying to do the right thing. Sometimes he says something dumb, not like in a shitty way, but like accidentally, because he is trying to do the right thing. He reminds me of sort of that. He's very good at being Superman. Like, you get the aw-shucksiness of him, but you also get the practicality of him. You get that he's a guy who lives in Metropolis, but you also get he's the guy from Smallville. He's good at doing all those things. Like, it just felt very much like Superman, and I like that his morality is constantly like, you know, he can come up with a better idea or a way that's nicer. He very much embodies the guy who would save a squirrel, which he actually does do in this movie. Rachel Brosnahan, perfect Lois Lane casting, just like the exact kind of Lois Lane you'd expect to be now. When they showed her apartment, I was like, yep, makes sense to me. Like, just no. So in some cases, like the big three of this were cast so well, there's almost not a lot to say, which very much says a lot about the casting in this film and like how smart they were about doing it. Nicholas Hoult is really, really good as basically Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. I think this works better than the Zuckerberg, Jesse Eisenberg Luthor, although the theory of it is correct. I think they understood that like Musk and Stephen Miller and Bezos are far eviler than Zuckerberg. They're all evil, doesn't matter. But it works better for a villain. And it works better for a bold guy like Lex. I like that his team just had was just, you know, kind of people at work you'd expect at work, and were like just trying to get through the day and do their best and high-fiving each other. They're also like working for Luthor. James Gunn was really good at intellectualizing where these characters would be, what they would be like, what they would have. In that case, they felt very real. Actually, I will say, this is one of the few movies in general where like every character I knew very well, because they were always doing character stuff. Like everybody was a well-detailed character. Everyone from Jimmy Olsen to like the Tessmacher. I guess it's not Miss Tessmacher in this, but like they're going to the Fortress of Solitude, and she's like trying to stretch and like trying to do all this stuff, while like the lady with the spinny, you know, the metallic stuff on her is like posing one way and Lex Luthor's posing the other way. And I was like, holy crap, they're all like exactly doing character stuff all the time. They're always doing different stuff. You never question. I never thought anyone was underdeveloped. Like, I understand this is starting like a cinematic universe, but I've never seen one that like had every character so fully developed that you're like, oh, they could make 20 shows off this, I think, and I'd be okay with it. What the fuck? Like, that's the other thing, is like talking about these movies going, and they're starting a new cinematic universe. Sounds like the most cynical, dumb shit you could possibly think of. It's just like, oh, cool, we're doing this again. But you really believe in it. Like, I was really interested. I really do like this movie. I think one of the things I think about what has happened with Superman over the past decade is when my daughter was born, I want to show her, explain to her what Superman was. I'm not going to show her Man of Steel. She's a little kid. And honestly, that movie fucking sucks. I'm sick of people apologizing for it. I'm sorry. People have bad taste. Leave me the fuck alone. But it's not the Superman you show kids, you know. And Superman, when I was a kid, was a Superman who gave you hope, you know. And I show her Fleischer Brothers, or we watch My Adventures with Superman. Her Superman is animated because they didn't fuck around with that. But now my kids are older, and I can take them to the Superman, and I can show the joy of Superman and explain the first superhero and have them have something to hope for through this character. And I think what we lost in trying to Frank Miller everything is that we lost why superheroes hit. Because when Superman hit, it was an explosion. We had this whole new genre of literature happen because of when he broke out. We should not be denying what this is for, you know, edgy points or whatever the fuck. Like, Superman is who he is. He is this kind of character. You can reinvent him how you want, but ultimately, this is Superman. When they talk about the old Superman, they say, you will believe a man can fly. Believe was a part of it, because you believed in Superman. You believed he would do the right thing, and he could work his way out of it no matter what. And even though James Gunn's smart enough to have this Superman take a punch and fall down and be relatable, you still know, in the end, Superman is going to save the day. Lois Lane is going to love him, and everything is going to be all right. And maybe it sounds stupid or quaint that I have that opinion or something, but I think there's a reason we have characters like that, and there's a reason we love characters like that. And I think this movie showed me and reminded me why I do like Superman and why I wanted to get you. I like that he's cartoony in this. I like that they have the dumb sports writer in this, played by Beck Bennett. That's an awesome idea. I like that they're trying, while everything's exploding, they're trying to do a story in the Daily Planet. I don't care if newspapers don't matter anymore. It's like, he's flying in the air. Like, I don't need everything to be real, guys. Like, what's going on? Like, there's a bunch of superheroes. None of this is real. I get, like, the war conflict thing is, yes, politically, like, sort of, like, you know, feels a little silly and all that stuff. But I think the point of that was like, what would Superman be in a modern world? Not shying away from the darkness of this world, but also saying Superman is the hope to get us through this. And I don't think Superman is going to save us like in the real world. That would be cool if you could do that, Superman. That'd be nice. But what the character is, it's like to make you believe in stuff. This all-powerful person was the most powerful person in the world in DC would be Superman. That he always makes sure to do the right thing. That he makes sure he cares about everything. And in a cynical, shitty world, it's nice to see a movie like Superman. It's not just nice like, Ted Lasso's nice or something. It's nice to believe in hope. And I think why we created superheroes is because we believed these people with superpowers would come and hopefully save us. That's not the reality we live in. That's something we can always hope for. And I think Superman gave us that hope, at least for 2 hours. So if you have seen Superman and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.